to This Contains Garlic. You're here with your hosts, Georgia Garlic
Mark Garlic.
And we're back for another episode of our podcast. And today, what are we talking about, Mark?
Today we're going to be talking about the most important training topic, I think, which is exercise selection and picking the right exercises with the right outcomes for the right goals.
Yeah, and I think there's so many variations of things we can talk about here as well based off of this subject. Obviously, we are in this interim period of Christmas and New Year, and a lot of people at this time don't really do anything to do with the gym. Wait till January 1st knocks around, or I hope our clients are not doing that. If you're listening to this, get to the gym, make sure you're doing your sessions. But I think it's a good time to talk about it because I think exercise selection really, in my opinion, comes down to the outcome. So like, what is the person trying to achieve? And I'm not just talking about a client here, I'm talking about anybody.
Exactly.
So let's get into it.
So what is exercise selection? Exercise selection is as simple as it reads on the tin. Just what exercises are you selecting to include in your workout? And then I guess I think there's a lot of preconceived notions on certain exercises have to be, in your training program, or you have to do certain exercises to get a desired outcome, which generally might not necessarily translate the best into like general population application.
Yeah, I think, you always got to see the fact that the leaders of this industry are obviously going to be the image that you want to achieve in your day-to-day life. That's just the way it's always run. And so, when people see like us exercise and they think, oh, how do you do that? It's like reality is the fact that it's just, consistent day in, day out application for many, many years that has got you into a position of doing that. But, I always say it's quite hard to always see, I always say humans are so outcome focused that they don't want to see any of the process. And exercise selection is one of these things that people think it's a bit of a joke. It's like, oh, okay, well, somebody's going to put some exercises together. What a waste of time. And it's like, actually, that's what stops you from fatiguing, being injured, hating your exercise regime, turning up to the gym, seeing body composition change, which I think is a massive thing. And I talk, how many people do we take on board as clients who, are beating themselves into the ground with the most ridiculous regimes, and you strip it back with the right structure and also understanding the nitty-gritty parts of training. Like, I think,
but also the exercise selection for your mass kind of general population programming is terrible, and you would classify the vast majority of it is pushing, squatting, knee dominant stuff that is like lunges, squats, pressing, overhead, horizontal pressing, very minimal pulling, very
bent
minimal
over rows. Oh my God.
Hinging of the hips, challenging the hamstrings in the lengthened position, flexing the knee, to work knee flexion of the hamstring, and core exercises that are not crunches and all this other like random shit that you generally see. And that's, like Georgia said, the stuff that is stopping people from seeing the most amount of progress. It's also if the exercise selection and the periodization is overly daunting, always hit orientated, super draining, super fatiguing.
Well, actually, I just want to interrupt you quickly because it's not just, we're going to talk diet. I think exercise selection, I think we should really be going off the tangent of obviously strength and conditioning or weightlifting.
Yeah, let's focus on that.
Focusing on like what, I guess, hypertrophy. Like that's, I guess, the main goal that we're here trying to talk about. Yeah. But I think with exercise selection is like a lot of clients come to us. I think, as you said, exercise selection can be quite daunting when you're put into these certain things. You're thinking, what the fuck? Like, how am I going to do this? But if you look at something like, I don't know, a woman who likes to lift weights, but is focusing on, I don't know, how many women do you know that want to do a pull-up? Okay, this is quite a good example.
All of them.
everybody wants to do a pull-up, and it's one of these really weird things. The same with push-ups, where like people, specifically people that can't do them at the current time, decide to throw themselves into, I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? I want to do it, but I can't do it, and they try and fail, I guess, to do the absolute exercise, forgetting the fact that what gets you to the position of doing a full pull-up is all the back end work. So like, you know, the unilateral work, the consistency, the building of certain structures in your physique in order for you to be able to pull yourself up with good technique. And so I always say, like, don't make yourself depressed. Like, I will never ever give like a client that has got like zero like understanding or, you know, of strength training, like a pull-up in there, you know, no. You're going to be looking at doing like a lat pull down, something that's a little bit more sensible, taking into like a unilateral row so that they can build their back strength and not be depressed when they can't get it. Oh, I can't do a pull-up. Yeah, most people can't really do a pull-up properly, to be quite honest with you, but it's one of those things that you can do it if you're prepared to go through the process of certain types of exercise selection. And I think
most programs don't afford people that opportunity to work the accessory-based movements like Georgia says, a unilateral row or a row or different variations of row that are targeting your lats, or, you know, an assisted pull-up or some variation that you can scale, when the vast majority of the program is prioritizing other body parts, let alone helping and encouraging those people. Because like Georgia says, it's not, nobody has ever just been able just to do loads of pull-ups. Like, it's the journey of pull-ups is not being able to do pull-ups for a very extended long period of time and working on it consistently to then being able to doing it. So if you don't put in the homework and the yards, doing the accessories and strengthening your biceps and strengthening your shoulders and your core and all those other accessories that comes through proper exercise selection to then point you in the direction of that outcome, then your statistical chances of success are highly diminished.
I'll be like totally honest with you. Do you know how many people I've also come across who have like jumped up because they just think they're going to try a pull up? There's one, do you know what I mean? And they've ended up completely fucking themselves, like to the point where it's like, oh my God, like I've now got a seized shoulder and I can't move.
Shoulder impingement.
Like, the reality is, there's no point trying to do these exercises. You wouldn't try and do calisthenics and hang yourself off a flagpole. Well, I mean, look, like you can try, but like most people would really struggle. Like, you know, it would takes a huge amount of practice and the beginning steps. The same with anything. If you learn, oh God, let me think, in the top of my head, jiu-jitsu. I don't know why that's in the top of my head. But like, you know, there's so much like technicalities behind these things, and strength training is no different. Just because every general population person can go to a gym doesn't mean that it segments it, that it's complete garbage. Because if you're going to train correctly and you're going to do it well, like, you know what I mean, you're going to have a want to always be better, to progress yourself. But I take yourself back to how many people, because certain compound movements in people's training programs are very quantifiable, and you can see a lot of I guess you can say, like, you can push a lot of weight or you can put a lot of weight in them. So let me talk about like deadlifts, leg presses, exercises which
just compound movements.
Yes, I'd say, look, there's some that I would say stand out more than others, but people are fighting at the fact that they can't seem to pull more off the ground. And why am I doing this? And I feel like I look like I'm shitting myself when I pull it. You know, all of these things. But actually, again, if you just stood back and gone, okay, I don't think I'm ready to be pulling even fucking 70, 80, 190 kilos even off the ground. What I should be doing is thinking, okay, so what muscle groups am I working in this movement? And what is going to get me pulling or pushing more weight? And the reality is a lot of people, everybody is not, your bodies are not symmetrical. You know, you don't just have like the same left and right hand, the same as you can't. No. If you're right-handed, you probably can't write with your left-handed unless you're obviously talented. But you know, the same thing. So you've got to strengthen those equally if you want to see the driving force that when you pull in a deadlift, that you've actually gone both legs pushing through the ground, leg driving up. You actually have the strength, because there's always going to be one side that's going to be like, yeah, we got this, and the other's like, nah. So that's the reason why I think our methodology sees people progress so much faster in actual compound movements, such as, because we strip it back, we make you do nitty gritty, which is hard, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, the unilateral work, it's quite fatiguing in the sense of, you've got two sides. You can't just be pulling for 8 reps. You're probably then going to be pulling for 16. Like, there's going to be, well, more than 60. I'm saying if you're working 8 on either side, 10 reps either side, it's a lot more strenuous. There's a lot more intensity throughout training. And I think exercise selection, a lot of people say is like, the more you do, the better. And that's complete bullshit.
Yeah, that's wrong.
I think if you want to talk about like your body being in a state of inflammation, that's the best way of going about it.
Yeah, people that say that show very little understanding on training or coaching general population.
Quickly, I'm going to ask you one of the best questions, one of the most frequent questions that we get asked throughout the whole of our whole career has been, is it better to lift with light weights for more reps or heavier weights for less reps? And I think this is one of the things, like for muscle gain, to see like actual physique change and lean muscle tissue.
I think the reality, boiling the answer down and simplifying it, comes down to managing fatigue.
Yeah.
The more repetitions you do, the more fatigue you're going to accumulate over a given period of time. The less reps you do, the less fatigue you're going to experience, with the answer being generally between 6 reps and up to about 15, I would say would be the max where most people would should fluctuate. But in reality, it comes down to rate of perceived exertion, how much intensity and how much effort are you putting into that set relative to the amount of reps that you're doing. But
and also mechanical tension, like in movements.
Yeah, so again, the more reps you do, the more muscle contractions you're going to require. The more muscle contractions you do, the less effective those muscle contractions become. And then it comes down to, are you stimulating muscle hypertrophy or are you stimulating muscle damage, which is 2 very different outcomes. So it's like trying to hit that sweet spot. You don't want to put yourself into a position where you can't recover and you're actually physically damaging the muscles. You want to put yourself in the sweet spot that you can recover, you enjoy, you can scale, you can train hard, and you stimulate that sweet spot of hypertrophy that is not too much but not too little.
Yeah, so obviously that's the answer. I just wanted to go over that like kind of topic because I think it's something that people ask quite a lot in the sense of
I do you not think that there is like a lot of people do really not look down, but they do diminish like exercise selection
and the movements that
are chosen? Because like, for example, let's say we've had the privilege of training quite a few men that are over 6'2", right? So if we go in with the traditional exercise selection of your general population for people that are shorter than 6'2", like 5'8", the average height of a man, for example, the exercise selection between those 2 individuals couldn't be more night and day. Because of limb length and, when you look at fulcrums and levers, when it comes to the physics and how the person and the individual's body is going to move and the distance traveled and the range of motion, so on and so forth. Hence the reason why they always come to us and they're like, I'm always ruined because you copy and paste your traditional strength and conditioning program that's like, hi, I think you should back squat as much as you can, and you're like 6'5". Do you know what I mean? And then we mix it up a little bit, not to say that we demonize certain exercises, but understanding that certain individuals require certain exercises, then exponentially allows those people to progress to new heights and places, and they love their training and they find it a lot more comfortable and they gain more confidence. And I just feel like a lot of people tend to diminish the fact that we know exactly what we're doing. We know how to put the movements together. We know exactly what movements, and every single exercise that we pick for clients has a particular outcome that, again, like we could break down and talk about every single outcome for every single exercise until the cows come home. But I do feel like it is something that is really undervalued.
Yeah, and massively so. I think, but I think that's been down to the way that, not only does like an online coaching market work, but I think it's due to like the fitness industry and also people's like will and want. Like, at the end of the day, I think, it's hard when, there's so much to think about with training, and I always say this to people, like, if you want to be good at it, like, you need to switch your fucking brain on, like, you really do. Like, you need to actually understand that, like, if you want to get better, like, you know how many, so many women message me, like, when they see me train, they're like, how the fuck do you do that? I'm only lifting 10 kilos, blah blah blah. And I'm like, look, number one, like, do you know what I mean? Because you've not seen the amount of hard work I put in, like, I can't even seem to justify how switched on I've had to be with myself to be in the position I am now. And I'm nowhere close to where I want to be. So, like, you know, I just think it's one of those things, when you go into the gym, so many people have this attitude where it's like, I just don't give a fuck, I'm just here to do something. And that's almost, in my way, in my thought pattern, has been kind of encouraged. Just go to the gym and do something. I just honestly think that diminishes your relationship with the gym. Because you go there, you just fuck around, you get a few leg extensions in, a couple of press ups, off I go. Do you know what I mean? You know, oh, well, that was pointless. I haven't seen any progress. Oh, why do I not look stacked? Do you know what I mean? Like, all of these things. And then you kind of think, oh, the gym's fucking shit. Do you know what I mean? And that's the problem. And I say this a lot. I say exactly the same with tracking calories. If you're not going to be in it to 100%, please don't. Do you know what I mean? Because you're actually ruining the relationship you have with the tool that is literally going to give you, like, the most empowerment you possibly could have for managing your weight long term. But, you know, with
I hate to sound cynical, but I do see people's exercise selection when they go to the gym and they do certain movements, and I'm like, you should have just stayed at home. Okay. And I know that's really cynical, but I'm like,
okay, there are certain people we can say that for.
I'm like, you should just stay at home. Like,
not Jem, we're talking people that, like, are a bit of a fucking smug twat, to be quite honest with you, and, like, you know, it's not like, I think, a bit of a smug twat. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, it's the same as, like, the online market has opened up, like, so, like, social media as well, I guess, like, and the YouTube and all the rest of it, like, this extensive, like, exercise, like, most of these exercises are made up, like, the basics aren't sexy for most, like, do you know how many people are like, oh, can I change my training program? No. Do you know what I mean? What are you going to be fucking doing? Like, I didn't think you would, you know what I mean? Like, what, I changed my training. So many people are like, chop change, because whatever they're doing, they're not putting in enough, like, thought process or will and want into it, and then they hate it. Now, obviously, this does not happen with our clients, because we do actually give them the light of day, like, the clarity behind it. But I do see so many people like, oh, but, like, I shouldn't be doing this more than once. Do you know what I mean? What? So you're going to do the same ab exercise that you've got from YouTube, like, for the next, like, 2 years and expect to see some progress? And I come back to the same point, that why strength training, I just think, is, like, the fucking best thing you could possibly do. Yeah, I, like, honestly forget, like, the exercise search. I say strength training because in my head, strength training is exercise selection, tick, like, biomechanic, tick, do you know what I mean? Like, your nutrition, tick, your sleep quality, tick, your body and mind connection, tick, your mechanical tension, tick, your RPE, tick. Like, I'm talking, like, that in my head is why strength training is fucking amazing. We tick, carry on.
Can I interrupt you quickly? Because not like 30 minutes ago, I saw, I was AI'd a advertisement for a strength training program, which was just bodyweight exercises done at home. Can you please quantify to the people that are listening what is strength training? Not the market definition of, you know, you're going to a bar class and you're going to go stand on your tippy toes and they're like, no, this is building strength. It's fucking not. Okay, so let's try and quantify so people listening actually understand. Like, lifting a 5 kilo dumbbell. You've just taken the tone down
from something that I really wanted to go into, in the sense of why strength training is amazing.
No, but I want you to be able to explain what it is.
I do think the word, but for fuck's sake, like, fat loss, the word fat loss has been obliterated. The word, like, muscle tone.
Yeah, but I feel like the way
everything's going to be, because it's sellable at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I feel like some people standing at home or training in the gym, flapping a 5 kilo dumbbell around, think that they're strength training.
Because the influence where they're taking that from, whether it's from YouTube, whether they've seen it as, like, an Instagram workout or whatever, TikTok. Fuck, let's not forget TikTok. You know, that's mega.
Let's just quantify it in your own words.
The experts are telling them that it's strength training, but, like, the reality is like, you need to be lifting with a relative intensity and RPE and for a certain rep range consistently and progressively overloading in order to classify it as even close to strength training. staying at the same weight, like lifting, like fucking, as Mark said, like even like a 10 kilo dumbbell, do you know what I mean? Fine to start off with, but if you're still at that a year later doing the same movement, I can assure you, you've not seen progress. And it's the reality is it's just the fact that like you're not putting enough stimulus through your body in order to see muscle growth. And if you want to see muscle growth, you have to put yourself into intensity. And obviously, again, going back to what Mark said about the balance between like muscle damage like and actually training efficiently, is that you are damaging your muscles in some way or another when you strength train. Like, you know, when you lift weights, like your muscle fibers tear just a little bit, do you know what I mean? And that's why when they're inflamed and you feel like shit the next day, or you can't walk, you know, and you've got DOMs or whatever, it's because your muscles need to be recovering. So I think, you know, with strength training, I think a lot of people have obliterated progressive overload, actually, where progressive overload can work in many, many different ways. So it can work in what most people directly think of it as lift more weights, do you know what I mean? It could work in the sense of doing more repetitions, more volume, whatever, blah, blah. So it can work in anything that you progress. Problem is with that is that I do see a lot of people going, well, we'll just do loads more reps. And it's like, no, do you know what I mean? Like, because there comes to a point where you're putting yourself into...
You can't scale loads of reps, though. You can't
and that's what
continue to lift more and heavier, like how George has gone from, you know, doing RDLs with 25s all the way up to doing RDLs with 50 kilo dumbbells in each hand. She hasn't been doing 30 reps at a time. It's just that would be way too fatiguing.
My whole training, and I will always say that, like, I will hand on my heart, works in a rep range of 6 to 12. Like, and a majority of the time for most of my lifts, I work at, like, I like to get fucking I like to be able to do a number of reps, like, in the sense of feel, like, capable before I increase the weight. I'm not too keen, again, coming back to the whole thing of, like, just pulling yourself up on a bar or just shoving yourself on the ground and hoping you can do something. Do you know what I mean? No. Like, I'm the same approach to, like, PBs. I will be honest with you, I have not seen one person pull a PB with decent form. Do you know what I mean? And I'm one of these people where I just would not like want to look like I was shitting myself, coming back to it, to lift one rep, drop it on the floor and be like, yeah, fuck yeah. And then you're like, okay, I've lifted it. I've like fucking tried. But it's not progressive because you've got to do that.
I just to interrupt you again, sorry, but I don't think that, I don't classify that as strength training. I classify that as powerlifting or power.
But your average person, but again, if you're just powerlifters, that's disrespectful.
Not powerlifters, but like if your main goal is to shift as much weight as possible, like I need to progressively
like
overload.
Fucking train.
Yeah, at all costs, regardless of form and technique, and you're only doing it in 1 to 3 repetitions. I personally don't classify that as strength training.
No, but I wasn't saying it was strength training. What I'm saying is the general population will go into the gym. I've seen this numerous fucking times, racked on like 20s, 25s. Woo, fuck me. Like, I can do this. Just to like be like, yeah. Do you know what I mean? For like one rep, and they've just fucked themselves in a pair of running trainers, like deadlifting. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I just want to also just try and clarify the difference between strength training, because sometimes a lot of people will have...
Strength training will not go below 5 reps.
Remember where we rented space in Chelsea, that they would classify themselves as strength training coaches, but all they would do is bench press, deadlift, and squat. That's it. Like, I don't classify that as strength training. That is power, whatever you want to...
Well, because of variation.
Like, strength training has a utensils of exercises that revolve around
I would say it's a combination
compound.
of Olympic lifting that they did as well, actually, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and again, Olympic lifting, CrossFit, and whatever other birth child that running one is, again, that is not strength training. Strength training is... not bodybuilding. Strength training is like it's periodization that has outcome driven exercise selection.
And like going back off of like, I think it would be good to talk about exercise selection for like, again, the outcome. Do you know what I mean? So let's talk about the outcome. If somebody is wanting to see a huge amount of physical change in their physique, where do you think they need to be sat at in the sense of their exercise, like rep range, for example, or like what they should be aiming for to see the most physical change, okay, in their body composition?
In their body composition, I would say that they would need to focus on certain elements of compound.
Okay, so those exercises can obviously then cover for things like squats, lat pull downs, deadlifts, you know, and I think obviously what we were saying earlier, like they're much more scalable as well for
And
a
they
lot of
need to
people.
be the meat and potatoes of the training program, so people can work to a high intensity, work to a decent capacity, and scale and find the training quantifiable, which is a self-motivating factor, because when people see themselves getting stronger, lifting heavier weights, so on and so forth, that has an intrinsic positive benefit on a person's application and kind of mindset, which is a lot of I'm struggling to get words out here.
Well, what do you mean? I think when it comes to like, there's like Mark said, there needs to be the meat. They need to be the meat of the potatoes of your training because they are scalable. I think, you know, when we say things like squats, like if you looked at something like a back squat, which I would just like to point out, I have not done in my training program forever, and I think I'm doing pretty okay without them. They can be if you would look at an exercise selection point of view for somebody that struggled with back squat, wanted similar rate, like similar pattern of movement, but in a safer position. Because I personally think, like, I'm not talking for myself here or for the people that like dial in and fucking are really great at their training, but a back squat is a no bueno for majority of people. Like, I physically cannot watch like people back squat in a gym. It's like,
haven't got the
but
hip
it's really
mobility.
demotivating because I'm sorry, like, unless you've got a bit of a cocky PT, okay, I'm going to be honest here. Do you know how many cocky PTs I see? Oh, look at Sandra. She's got a fucking squat pad on her back and 25 kilos either side. And Sandra cannot even bend her legs. Do you know what I mean? She can't even bend her legs. And Sandra's crumbling under the bar. You can see the bar's about to literally break her neck, you know? And that's, okay, for Sandra, I'll give it to Sandra, okay? She might feel in that movement, woo, do you know what I mean? Cocky PTs told her.
Yeah, well
she's done squats, do you know what I mean? But there's going to come to a point Sandra will never be able to do that by herself because she wouldn't feel stable or, you know, good. And so it's good to give people exercises where they feel comfortable and then can build confidence in. And so I would, in the situation of Sandra, do you know what I mean? Instead of whacking on a bar on somebody's back that's probably got like a humpback as it is, because majority of the general population do, like, you know, you'd be putting them on a leg press, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Fuck, Sandra will be able to be pressing away, bending her legs, working full range of motion and be going, shit, I can lift so much more here and I don't feel like I'm about to fall on the ground, you know? Yeah. And this is the thing with exercise selection, why it's so important. Because I come back to the fact of why I think strength training is so fucking amazing. And it's because it is the most sustainable form of exercise. It's something where there's something for everyone, do you know what I mean? You start somewhere, do you know what I mean? And everybody builds, you know? It's not like it's a, you know, take yourself to CrossFit. I think there's an amazing community. Whenever I watch the CrossFit Games, I think, like, fuck me, I love those girls. They're savages. Like, this is savage, okay? But for a general population person, barring the community and the competitive nature of CrossFit, which is wonderful for a lot of people, it's too much volume, it's too much fatigue, and people start to, like, they love CrossFit and then they hate it. And, you know, I know a lot of people is, unfortunately, they're just like, oh, I've got an elbow injury, oh, my shoulder hurts, I fuck myself, you know. And yes, it's because of the nature of how fast CrossFit is. Like, if it's competitive, naturally you need to get something done pretty fucking quickly. And it's like, right, next. And there's no, like, necessarily thinking of the loading patterns in these strength.
I think like there are a lot of really good CrossFit coaches out there that do preach
Insanely
a lot
good.
of technique, and but then when it crosses over into general population and forcing people to work at an incredibly high intensity, there is going to be fatigue and there is going to be a reduction in form and technique. So if a person is starting off with relatively shit mobility, low muscle mass, low physical capability, and then you're throwing them into a environment that is then asking them to scale to such a rapid height in such a short period of time, there is going to be a vast breakdown in biomechanics.
But the people that do fucking nail CrossFit, Olympic lifting, all of this stuff, are the ones, now let me stop here, who have worked so bloody hard on the technique and the technicalities
so
behind what they're
consistent.
fucking doing, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That then when they go and do it, they're seeing the absolute gain from it. The difference is if you don't really understand these movements, you're doing huge amounts of volume of them and you're loading yourself like in a
look
way
at,
which is...
how many, like your sister's boyfriend, he loves CrossFit, but he
Fucking
can
loves it, but
never
he just
do it
can't do it
because
'cause
he's
it's
consistently injured.
so injured. 'Cause
And he goes for two classes or 2 weeks. He does really gags for it. He gets injured due to just exercise selection, biomechanics,
or the fact that he's not
fatigue-based.
really, and we'll be honest here, I'm sure Alex would be so honest in saying that he couldn't give two flying fucks about what he needs to actually do to be better.
Sure.
Like, we were like, well, have you not thought about, going into the gym and, we can write you a program and, doing it. Yeah, like, it's like... no, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
but to say if he he took a slightly different approach where he went to lift weights with proper exercise selection, he wouldn't get injured, and then it wouldn't be so intermittent and fair weather where you buy all the kit and then you end up and you've got the gym membership or the box membership and you never end up going because you're always in pieces. Like if you just took a slightly different approach where you are still lifting weights, but you're just doing it in a slightly more structured and scalable manner for the individual relatively, then it wouldn't be so intermittent.
the thing is though, like, I think like injuries, for example, are something which I find like different people deal with them differently. So like if you looked at like, if I took myself, for example, or potentially the people that like I would, I guess, nobody really, like, I don't aspire to be like anybody, but some people inspire me, like with their discipline to like a sport. Like,
Sure.
I do get really quite inspired by some like people in the industry who can create this. Like, I think when you look at being like, I don't know, the best, or, you're obviously always going to see like the most, I guess, the best outcome that you can achieve. But like what they've done to get there is like so vastly different to like what somebody would be doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, and I think there's this whole thing of like, you can look at people and see that they're savages, but like the reality is that like the work they've put into this can so easily be diminished. Like I think so many people, when you see like people online, I can't even believe like the comments that people get like on like their posts, like where I'm just like, fucking hell, like if you have any idea like the amount of like sacrifice that you like have to make in order to be like
exceptional.
Yeah, like to
If
be
you think
exceptional, like
about-
it's a fucking athlete. Would you be commenting on Usain Bolt? Like this is honest truth, okay? Usain Bolt thrown in front of people, he's the fastest man on the world. Is he still?
Yeah, by far.
Okay, cool. So, oh my God, Usain Bolt, like wow. Like, oh my God, discipline. All he's done is run. Do you know what I mean? Look at his video. He's always doing his running. Same as all the other runners, same as any athlete that you see. But yet when it comes to physique sports, people are like, natty, do you know what I mean? Or like, nah, that's all fucking steroids. Or like, and I'm like, do you have like any fucking idea, do you know what I mean, what the people have like literally this, and it's because they fucking love it. They've got such a passion for it. And I always say this, like, if you're not passionate about something, then don't bother other people with the fact you're not passionate about it. Do you know what I mean? Don't put other people down in the sense of
the guys that come to the gym and slate everybody. They're like, oh, look at all these people taking the soul so seriously, and they
it's like, how's your elbow tendonitis
why are you
going?
here every day then, mate? Why are you here every single day making no progress.
But
Like, if you're gonna come, if you're gonna turn up, you may as well at least see some return on investment.
But this is what I say, like, you know, the gym is one of these places where, like, I come back, you know, the tool tracking, like, please don't diminish your time in the gym, like, you know, by you know, going in and doing a couple of reps of this. The same as, okay, general population that go and do a lot of classes, do you know what I mean? You know what I was going on to? Fucking injuries. And then we just went on a diversion. Different people deal with it differently, okay? So, again, I come back to actually what I was talking about. I would deal with an injury in a sense of, okay, like, there's something that needs to be strengthened or worked on here because this wouldn't be normal. And yeah, it'd be stuck. I wouldn't necessarily be able to lift as much as I would normally lift, and I might have to change my exercise selection a little bit. But, like, I'm going in with the purpose that I'm always going to be better. And actually, this is going to help me because that injury's taught me, do you know what I mean, that I need to strengthen X, Y, and Z. And this has happened to me throughout my whole, like, strength. You know, but there's a lot of people who get injured that automatically are demotivated. So if you're going into, like, a lot of group classes, I don't know, boxing class, you're throwing your shoulder out, do you know what I mean? And you think, like, you're wondering why, like, you've got such severe shoulder pain and you're whacking pads all the time and you've got no necessarily, like, muscular structure that's helping you in that movement, or you don't even know how to protract or retract your shoulder blade and you're busy there punching bags for, like, fucking hours on end. You know, there's going to come to a point where you get injured and then you're going to be demotivated because you almost speak down at what you've done as the reason why you've got injured, and that can be, like, such a stopping factor.
An injury is a blessing because what that's doing is it's highlighting a weakness in your armor, and that you need to then address that and turn that weakness into a positive. And every, like, recovery program, if you do it properly, you end up strengthening, you know, muscle groups or patterns that are historically weak, and if you do it correctly, you turn them into strengths, and then those injuries never reoccur, and you come out the other side having learned a whole bunch of, you know, new things about your body, your biomechanics, exercise selection, priorities. But it's like Georgia said, the people that just instantly get demotivated.
That is the general population because it's hard, like, because you're like, oh my god, like, I'm injured, I can't do anything.
But then again, it comes down to, like, okay, well then dissect why are you injured, because again, that injury can sometimes come down to exercise selection. It can come down to you not being present. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can have the best training program in the world, but if you're going there and your head is away with the fairies and you're thinking about, you know, what you're going to have for dinner and what did that person say to me whilst you're, you know, deadlifting or doing a compound movement or doing anything really, then you're opening yourself up to...
I mean, I've said this to a few clients actually throughout the whole of my career. 100% I have. I'm like, switch the fuck on. You know what I mean? Like, literally,
again,
like, you're literally away.
Like Georgia says, it's not the tools. So everyone's got especially the general populations, everyone's got a story of where they injured themselves doing a deadlift or doing an RDL, and that exercise is bad for you.
Back,
it's not bad. No exercise is bad. It's just what comes down to the individual and their ability to move through, you know, spaces.
So talking of, like, exercise selection, I give you prime example of, like, most people can't do a bent over row, yeah? Like, a bent over row is one of the most classic, like...
I hate that exercise.
It's not... It's a back exercise. It's actually a full body exercise because at the end of the day, you need to be able to hinge your hips back. Yeah. I can't stand it because I literally, unless you're, like, again, the elite, the ones that know what you're doing.
If you can do a good bent over row, then by all means, crack on.
There are so many superior motives. There's moves than fucking
but if you can do it,
bent over row.
I appreciate everyone wants to be nostalgic and pretend like they're Arnold Schwarzenegger with the bent over row standing on the wooden block. I get it. You're living your fantasy. Do you know what I mean? But, like,
no, but it's also the exercise. But you can't.
But when it's the general population who can't hinge their hips, and then you look like Quasimodo about to ring the bell, and it's just horrific.
But again, like, it's down to the fact that also there's people in this industry which unfortunately are so influential who don't know how to exercise properly. You might be telling people to exercise, wonderful, you've got community. You're telling people how to move, like, you can't diminish that, but you're not necessarily telling them exactly how to do it properly, and you might be getting away with it, but like, at the end of the day, that's what also stops you being able to progress your weights in it. If your form is dog shit, don't even think about increasing your weights, like, or being able to, like, this is the thing, like, you know, it's one of these things where,
But how many people do they think have got really good technique and don't actually?
no, I think I want to go back to the bent over row quickly, because again, like, if you're talking about exercise selection, bent over row is very commonly selected for a lot of people. Pendley row, what's it?
Pendlay row.
Pendlay row, like, you know, and for certain people, again, coming at the outcome as to who the person is, like, those exercises might work. The reality is, if you want to be, one, comfortable in a movement, and two, be able to pull or push a lot of weight, you need to put yourself in a better position. A bent over row requires somebody to be able to hinge their hips back. Not many people can do that.
No.
A lot of people can, the ones that dedicate themselves to hinge their hips back, but a lot of people who are looking at this exercise cannot hinge their hips back. And what is required for a bent over row to not literally have you on the face down on the ground, like hunched over, like you're about to shit yourself, is your hips being hinged back. And you can't do that. Where do you think your placement of weight is going to be? Okay, it's going to be coming all through your lower back. You're going to be shrugging your shoulders, and you're going to be stuck with a couple of, you know, if you're a man, a couple of 20s, because you always ego lift. And for a woman, you'll be stuck with a couple 5, because you'll be like, fuck, this is really hard. Like, how am I meant to row? Now, take yourself to something like a one-arm row, a prone row, a seated row, all these exercises where you can substantially lift more, progress it more, get comfortable with it, have that little bit of security, and there's no other muscle group needing to be worked. It's not reliant on the fact you need to hinge your hips back and have a booty the size of fucking, you know what I mean? It's reliant on the fact that you can actually dial in on that exercise and really focus. I even say that like a one-arm row would even be still more uncomfortable for somebody, but a prone row puts people in a very comfortable position, well, for some. The same as a seated row.
Stability is the key to growing muscle mass.
Oh,
movements
my God.
that utilize a lot of ballistic movements. So your Olympic lifting, as though it is very, very impressive, is not the most muscle building or muscle taxing or, you know, metabolically, you know, in terms of metabolic tension, mechanical tension, metabolic adaptation, it's not going to be as beneficial as a movement that has you anchoring around something and then you know, isolating the target muscle group or pattern with as much stability as possible. Hence the reason why whenever you see the massive bodybuilders, all they're using are machines, because the vast majority of it just comes down to stability, targeting the muscle groups. And that's why when you look at Olympic lifters, historically, in terms of muscle mass, yes, they probably have more than the general population, but compared to physique athletes, have a very minuscule amount of muscle mass.
I would also say, and this exercise selection can also dictate where you hold your muscle mass. Okay, now what I mean by this is that if you are, so Olympic lifters statistically will be more anterior built and they will posterior. Okay, now not to say, again, please, if you are Olympic, do it properly, likely as you're prioritizing your posterior chain.
You'll have a big arse, but your back is, you know, your lats
there's going to
be
limiting factors, yes, in the sense of like, and unless, again, you do it properly and do all the technicalities, yeah, you're going to be a little bit more, like, not balanced in a sense. Well, you've always got to remember bodybuilding is built off of symmetry, isn't it? Yes, like, you've got to be at balance here. So you've got to build, like, equal. You can't have fucking one side. Like, that's why they scrutinise. Sorry, like your glute is like fucking 3 inches smaller than the other.
They do,
you know, like that's why you're like, oh my God, I worked all my life, and then suddenly someone's told my hamstring's smaller on my left side. That's fucking it. I'm gonna top myself. You know. But bodybuilding, if you want the best physique, okay, I'm not saying IFBB like top level. Like that's something that we would aspire to because that's what we like. I'm talking like not being super trap heavy or like having like, you know, for women, they don't like to, I love having a fucking stacked up body, but some women don't. Do you know what I mean? They think they look like a fucking man, or they're worried that a man's going to think they look like a fucking man, which is just a threat to them. But like, the reality is if you're placing weight through certain muscle groups quite consistently and not really changing exercise selection, you are not going to be symmetrical or in the best physical shape.
Aesthetically, but and that's what baffles me is women. I'm going to target women here. We'll go to
targeting nobody.
Pilates. We'll go to yoga and go and do all these types of exercise regimes in the endeavors to look better, but the overall exercise selection of those modalities is not as targeted as strength training. So, for example, I want to work my glutes, I want to have more shapely legs, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and you're going into these modalities that don't periodize and target those muscle groups ad nauseum. I just don't. I appreciate the gym is a very male-dominated area, environment, and sometimes cannot be very welcoming. But it just makes no sense why people don't utilize strength training like you are an artist. You've got the canvas is your body, and you can pick and choose certain exercises to accentuate muscle groups and areas of your body to your own desire.
Because people would say to you, like, if I'm honest with you, people would say, "Oh, it's fucking vain." Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of people. Like, if people don't have it, they're the first to tell you, like, why you don't need it.
Why are all those ladies going down to the bar class and going down to all these things on a consistent basis?
I'll be honest
it's all vain. Everyone's going there to look better and work out.
Or they're not. They're going there because it's less effort. Let's be fucking honest. Yeah, you might feel the burn, but let's all remember what burn is. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a build up of lactic acid. But the reality is
the
that
skyrocketing popularization of Pilates over the past couple of years, with all the celebrities and people that are influential now utilizing that modality of exercise. Do you not think that all the people that get influenced to do that want to look a certain way would actually want to look better?
Yeah, but I think that you're programmed to think that on a day-to-day basis, people might obsess over the fact that, like, they've got weight to lose, they don't feel like they're not feeling themselves. But, like, honestly, like, not many people are thinking about the symmetry of their fucking bodies. They're not thinking about the fact they can accentuate their fucking glute medius or their lat, like, it's their deltoid. They're not thinking like that. They go to the gym because they're told, because society tells you if you go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week, you won't die of a heart attack. Do you know what I mean? And that's a bit, I better go to the fucking gym so I can lower my blood pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's literally what it is. Okay. That is the majority of people.
But then do you not think that some people go there and be like, okay, well, I want better legs, I want a nicer bum.
They think I'm going to lose
so
weight.
Then they go and
I'm going for a run.
They would go to the gym and do legs.
I'm going for a run. Well, that's using your legs. Hopefully they get better.
Yeah,
that's
is
like
that bad?
The same as like it's not that bad.
We can't be. But in the almost 2024, we can't still be that. Naive.
The reality is for anybody of any age. And God, you know what? One of my clients the other day, I was like, no, that's totally incorrect. Like, literally, one of my clients said to me, oh, I was talking about children weightlifting, and like, there are studies to say that like there's no fucking damage to a child starting to lift weights. If anything, it's actually really beneficial. Massive benefits.
Huge
okay.
Benefits.
And she said to me, she was like, "Oh my goodness, but surely that's crushing them." And I was like,
stunt their growth.
I was like, yeah, okay. So going from that point, from any age, you're not going to be a toddler with 2 dumbbells, but we will be. Like
they're going to come
like
out
they'll
with
be having a fucking
they'll put a weight fest as soon as
seated shoulder presses. They push themselves out of my vagina.
You'll start crying. We're going to put a weight fest on the burger.
Mark, I think you're going to get NSPCC coming round.
Get them on the air bike.
No, when they push themselves out, they'll hopefully have fucking decent lats.
I'm not interested in first steps. I'm interested in,
first
coefficient of lifting twice your body weight.
Okay, well, anyway, strength training is, okay, you sound like such a prick, honestly. Sorry, don't think that we're actually like this, because sometimes you have to be put in your place, Mark. But strength training has so many benefits for every age range. Like, not the other week, and I think I've realised it quite a lot with generations, just like, we are so lucky so fucking lucky. You might be sat there like miserable. Oh, but the older people have got more money than us because like they've worked, I've got to work so hard, got no money, blah, blah, blah. But we do, in this day and age, have legitimately the best accessibility to helping yourself, do you know what I mean? The best people, the best knowledge, the best research, the best of everything. You
Literally.
currently have access to it, okay?
Yeah.
It's up to you what you choose to fucking do with that, okay? If I look at the older generation, so I look at my grandma now, who's literally like, sadly, let's not talk about this, it'll make me cry, but is unconscious in a bed, fetal position, bones, skin and bones, not able to stand up, not able to do anything. Look, she's made it to 92.
Yeah.
But my point is the quality of life that my grandma has lived in the last is something that I don't think she would ever have wanted for herself. No. And I know she can't even say that to us, do you know what I mean? And the same as like why I was so hot. My mum's mum is much younger than my grandma, and she was a very young mum. And you know, I said to her, like, when I obviously became, like, a coach and all of that, like, obviously the conversations of lifting weights and grandma eating more and making sure she was, like, became up, and, like, grandma got a personal trainer. And look, at the end of the day, I selected the best for her out of the best of what I could choose from, do you know what I mean? And, you know, it was that priority which she would start lifting weights so that she was not, you know, she's much younger than my grandfather, you know, age is a nemesis at the end of the day, and likely like she's going to be on her own at some point, do you know what I mean? And she, you know, I need like a grandma to be standing strong and like not having aches and pains, and you know, she does strength training, she does Pilates, she does everything. But I just come back to the fact that like why somebody wouldn't think like, fuck, I am ridden in aches and pains on a day-to-day basis. I'm in and out of either hospital, a physio, an osteo. I feel like shit. I feel like I look like shit. Do you know what I mean? Like in the sense of what I feel. Nothing feels great. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm getting old. You know, strength training quite literally with the combination at certain ages of HRT, in my opinion, completely and utterly see you with a new lease of life. And so the same with like women, like if you're a woman listening to this and you sit in the age range of under 30 or now 30 and above, please, for Christ's sake, start strength training properly. Strength training, not 5 kilo dumbbell in a bar class somewhere.
Yeah, or like
because
those
you don't
silly
really understand that
combination
how much your
exercises.
muscle mass is starting to decrease on a year-to-year basis, okay? And if you don't do anything to help that, don't think that in come 10, 15 years, not only you are more susceptible to injure yourself, which can set you off for, you know, for example, the reason my grandma is in the state that she is in now was all spurred on from breaking her knee, okay? Now, that happens in a lot of elderly people because they break something and their body can't recover, the mobility goes, and then they can't move, and then you waste away. That's literally what happens. So if you're in a situation where maybe you like to go for a run now, you keep on rolling your ankle down the stairs, or you keep on doing, like, these are things which, trust me, 10 years time, when your body starts to decline in that muscle mass, you start to get older, whether you like it or not, and you're not really doing anything else to help it, you know, you really need to start thinking, how am I going to build this foundation that's like quite literally going to prop me up for the rest of my life? You don't need to think about 90. God knows whether or not we're all going to last till that age. But you do need to be thinking like 5-10 years ahead. And trust me, a lot can change in 5 and 10 years of your life. And, you know, I see so much, you know, you say, why would people not want to do this? I'm like, because people at the end of the day are so influenced these days by what people look like that they're so obsessed with that outcome. And if that person does a certain outcome, you know, certain thing to get that outcome, people will follow. So people do training, which is Pilates saved my life. Do you know what I mean? Fine. Do you know what I mean? Great that women are moving their bodies. But I would also like to see an encouragement of like a combination of that. The same as HIIT training, you know what I mean? Like women are getting obliterated, men as well, where they can't even fucking lift their hands above their heads. You know, they're injured constantly. It's setting them back in their own personal goals, you know. And so I just think, as I say, time and time again, strength training is the most sustainable form of movement, because once you've nailed that technique, and I assure you, that's all you've got to do. Do you know what I mean? You nail the technique, then you work on the nitty gritty around it in the sense of like, okay, I feel a bit more confident now, I can lift a little bit more weight. But the technique of strength training, once you've learnt it, it's the same as nutrition. It's with you for life. You literally know how to strengthen your body, how to move on a day-to-day basis, how to lift your hands above your head, how to get something out of a cupboard. Like one of my clients said to me literally today, she was like, oh, I was lifting the turkey around with no help from my husband. She was like, I felt so great. Do you know what I mean? That I was able to just lift up like a huge turkey, not even worry about anyone helping me. There's the smallest things from people that couldn't even like bend over properly and like pick up something from the ground without having severe sciatica, or being able to lift their, hands above their head and pick something out the cupboard, like the smallest things, to being able to like lift something up. She was like, it's the best feeling. And she was like, I can't describe it. I said, don't worry, you don't need to describe it. I think I've definitely experienced the same, and all of our clients do, they experience this really quite empowering feeling of being stronger. And it just comes back to, yes, strength training is only beneficial, in my opinion, when it's done correctly, like anything. So if you're interested in it and you're like, I need to do this because we're telling you should be doing it, whether or not you have our help or not, it is one of these things where I just find the right exercise selection, find the right people to help you, point one. Always have, if you can, professional help, because it removes all the fucking guesswork. Do you know what I mean? It removes your uncertainties of what the fuck you're doing in the gym. It removes what you're going to do with your nutrition. It gives you somebody you're accountable to, so on and so forth. But if you find an exercise routine that you enjoy, like, you're not going to give up on it because you're going to start seeing returns from it. And the biggest thing in most people is not giving up. And so you might as well give yourself the chance of not giving up. I know plenty of people who have done couch to 5K. Okay, wonderful. They've got to 5K, they've stopped because they're like, okay, I don't want to run further than 5K, and then it's like, oh, have you run this week? No, 3 weeks later. No, I don't really like running now. Like I'm a bit scared to get going. Or it's giving me, I don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, because they're so scared, they've gone backwards. Do you know what I mean? Because with running, it is one of those sports where, like, if you don't do it consistently, you're not going to get better, the same as most things. But I just think, it is one of these things that's just so much so quantifiable in not only your day-to-day life, but also in your physique and your mindset, that I don't understand why people wouldn't do it. But I just don't think I think a lot of people are doing it now. I don't know. I think obviously strength training has been popularised so much in the general population, and obviously in certain different age ranges, that a lot of people are starting to strength train. But I think it always comes down to the context of like who helps you, where your first starting points are, like, and also just getting into a routine of you actually enjoying it in order for you to actually see the benefit from it. And I always say that most people get the most love out of something when they've got somebody that they like, not aspire to be like, but are inspired to like keep on pushing themselves. And I think that really does come down to having a coach. Like, if you want to be the best at anything, it's going to require you to have professional help. Like,
people outsource everything though when it comes to every aspect of their life, whether it's financial, whether it's medical, whether it's professional. So being able to outsource to somebody that can take the complexities of the subject and distill them into actionable goals and actionable actions for you to then, build confidence in, will definitely have a much more profound and positive experience with your association towards strength training and going to the gym and just seeing a return on investment.
Yeah, and I think it's also quite important to say that like the gym is such like as I said, like such a popular place for people to go to. Like come January, which is obviously like in a few days' time, like the gyms are just known to be busier. People are like, right, I'm ready to action my goals, and then by February most people have given up. And the reality is it's like people have got so heightened to like, oh, save this, let's do this, let's try this, let's do this. And I think this is what we were talking about. I think this is what I was talking about earlier on the podcast, which we didn't actually go into, which was we're quite conscious about like what kind of exercise content that we post on social media, and we haven't really found our foot just yet with it, because there's this element where like we obviously do strength training on a day-to-day basis and we like to show that. but it's also like, I don't want to give people too much variety in their exercise regimes to the point where they feel like they should be doing all of these exercises in order to see like a result. And it's really hard, like, where our content's likely to go is effectively consistency, because you'll probably just see not only our clients but also us doing the same patterns of movement, like, and progressing them.
Yeah.
If we go too much into
that, 'cause again,
different exercises, I feel like a lot of people end up like wanting to try that exercise, and I see this a lot in the gym, like, whether I like it or not, like, a lot of people have taken exercises that I've done in the gym and they go and utilize themselves, because I see it happen like quite a lot. And, you know, I just don't know why, like, they would have seen like, oh, they're doing it, they look strong in it, or they do it well, or I'm not sure what they think. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, because I'm not the person, but they might think, oh, that looks good, I'm going to do that. Do you know what I mean? The reality is you shouldn't just do something for the sake that somebody else is doing it, because then we come back to the outcomes of strength training.
Because that exercise might not be valid for you as an individual, and your own, you know, input into your biomechanics and the availability of certain ranges of motion and so on and so forth, which can then give you a warped perception on the tools of strength training, the exercises, which can then, you know, if you don't have a very solid or positive experience doing certain things, then why would you continue to do them? You know, and
but I also think, like, if you look at somebody on, like, so you might see somebody that's an athlete or like a professional, do you know what I mean, somebody that does it consistently, doing like an exercise, oh, this is a good one, a Smith machine backwards lunge or like a split squat, okay? And then people will say to us, we'll put, maybe we've done, this has happened to us actually a lot. Like, I do them because I understand the pattern of the movement incredibly well and where I should be loading. And I find it one of the most stable ways for me to be able to load a lot of weight through my lower body, okay? But I haven't always been in the position where I can do a Smith machine backwards lunge properly and not take the load through other places I shouldn't really be taking the load, because something like a Smith machine is a very fixed range of motion. So if you don't understand, it can be stable, but if you don't understand the movement, your posture's not your average, you know, not like optimal, likely is going to push you into a very awkward position. And so people will message us and go, oh, should I do this instead of doing like that? And I'm like, no, because at the end of the day, like, a Smith machine something is more advanced in my opinion, even though it's more stable, because it's fixed range. There's no movement on the bar. There's nothing that gives, like, your posture can't, your biomechanics can't give you an inch on a Smith machine. Do you know what I mean? You're stuck in that fixed range. So again, coming back to why, like, the top elite athletes, like bodybuilders, will be on machines, you know, stability, because they can load huge amounts of weight through those movements without thinking, fuck, and what if the barbell clip falls off the edge, and, you know, but for general population, I come back to variety of exercise. Everything's cool, do you know what I mean? Everything's cool.
But the thing is, when it comes to exercise selection, you understand that variety is not good, because too much variety equals too much novel stimulus, which equals too much fatigue. So when it comes to exercise selection, you're picking the certain exercises that you need to do to achieve certain outcomes, and then doing them for the same exercises, not all in every single session, but you have a block of sessions that you then repeat for 4 to 6 weeks to 8 weeks to however long it takes you to stall certain movements, and then you utilize exercise selection to then pick another group of movements that build off the first set of movements to then progressively overload those through a block, and then not just picking a variety of exercises and just doing them at random at any
I guess, like,
moment.
there's and I think, you know, it's one of these things like, oh, today I'm just going to go and, like, as I said, like, you know, the people that come in, go into the gym and go and put, like, the smallest plates on the bar and go start deadlifting off the ground, like, they've suddenly done it, like, you know, and they've never done it, like, once in their life, and they think they're putting on, like, huge amounts of weight on the bar and lifting like an arsehole is going to benefit them in some way or another. And it's to say, like, if we look at, like, certain exercises that I would say that, like, we come back to compound movements that you're likely to keep very, like, always pretty much in your program. Something like leg press is a very good example of this, because I think, like, like we say like bodybuilders and stuff use leg presses a lot because like literally like you can carry on with the 25s, do you know what I mean? And that's the reason you can carry on piling plates on either side. There comes to a limit on a back squat how many plates you can get on either side. Plus also, again, to master a back squat and to be great at back squatting, again, it comes down to the will and the want, the technicalities, and understanding all the accessories that are going to get you and the mobility that's going to get you into.
The thing is, you can just fulfill the same prerequisites by just doing a different variation of the same
and I would
movement.
say that my method has always laid in unilateral work. Like I just feel like so many people ask me the same thing: how do I improve my grip? How do I lift more in like how do I do a pull up? How do I do a push up? How do I do it? And it's all to do with the unilateral strength, because at the end of the day, like if you feel equally-ish, not completely, obviously you're never this way, strong on both sides, like you're obviously going to be able to push more weight. If one side's flagging, do you know what I mean? Your grip's flagging on one side, you're not... And so when I say unilateral work, where your grip can be really improved with unilateral work is because you've got to hold weight for a much longer duration of time.
Doubles, yeah.
So, you're doing, I don't know, like a backwards lunge or... I don't know, like with 2 dumbbells on either side, like you've got to change legs at some point, do you know what I mean? So you've already held them for 8 to 10 reps maybe on one leg. Now you've got to carry on holding them for the other side. Yeah. So naturally you're building grip strength at the same time, scaling. More, yeah. So there's just so many... there's so many things you can talk about in training in the sense of the benefit, but I do think it's one of these things that don't get too... Coming back to what we like to share, like... I think we've always fought with the fact that, like, for a long period of time with, like, online social content, it's been that whole thing of, like, surprise people, do you know what I mean? Like, create something so creative they don't know what you're talking, you know what I mean? But actually with exercise, like, strength training is just more about the consistency of patterns of movement and doing them on a regular basis. And again, like, we've never been ones to, like, want to throw so much variation at a client that they don't have a clue what is doing and why.
Because how can you expect to get better form and technique and understanding if you're just constantly doing different things always? It would be so stressful if your training program just consisted of new things all the time. Because you're never able to understand the certain patterns.
Well, you just never get better.
Yeah, you just never get better at your form and technique because you're just constantly never working on it consistently.
So how we'd cycle a client, like in the sense of, it sounds like they're on steroids, but how we'd cycle a client in their training program would work like roughly like this. If somebody had worked for like a 4 to 6 week period on a training program, we would like still keep in the movements that they saw ultimate progress with. We take some of the movements they might have seen huge progress with out. We put in ones that obviously help them still to do the same patterns of the movement muscle groups. When they come to their say for example this is block 2, when they come to block 3 of training and we come back to block 1 exercise, and most of the time clients have seen a huge increase in strength in that exercise from not even actually doing it. So this is why I say,
because
like,
you've been working on the accessories,
the
and
accessories,
the muscles,
or the same kind of similar patterns of movement, but just with different exercise selection. And it's so why I say, like, don't be the type. It's really motivating, as I said. Jump up on the bar, you're up there. Wow, I never thought I could do this. I get that feeling. But actually, what's going to feel really, really great is not doing it at all, do you know what I mean? Barring maybe eccentrics and working the pattern of movement in other exercises, and then trying after you've done a significant period of strengthening, because you're probably going to be like, oh, fuck, do you know what I mean? Like, I can actually do this. But because you haven't focused on the 1 rep you're trying to do, pulling yourself up, and you're actually focused on all of the things that are actually going to get you to do more than 1 rep, you know?
Exactly.
So your aim should never just be 1 rep in something, do you know what I mean, in my opinion? Like, to quantify strength, I really think you need to be
I think people need to look at it relatively to their own body weight, because if a person is, let's say, 75 kilos and you are able to utilize a 75 kilo load, which is a 75 kilos on the bar in total, you know, that is quantifiable to a specific individual. And I feel like the more we try and quantify what strength training is relative to people's body weight, then it makes it so much easier to understand when you're standing there and you're doing an exercise like an RDL with 10 kilo dumbbells or 10 kilos in total, and that's, you know, a very small percentage relative to your body weight. Then, you know, strength training then requires you to then improve that coefficient of relative strength between load lifted and relative body mass or body weight, because that's easy to quantify. So like someone like yourself, you're now lifting, you know, 1 point or whatever the coefficient is, going closer and closer to twice your body weight. And I feel like the more people do that, it makes it a lot more quantifiable and
I'd
understandable.
be twice my body weight on certain lifts, but not.
Yeah, but that makes so much more sense to people, because then if you're like, I weigh 55 kilos, I should be doing, you know, X, Y, and Z for at this weight, then that makes it then understandable. Like, how much progress do you need to make? How, you know, it then you create a benchmark on what direction you then need to move into. Do you know what I mean?
But I was having this conversation about, because World's Strongest Man is currently on. I don't know if it's finished now, but it's currently on the TV. So like they've, I don't know where it is, London or something like that.
It was in London, yeah.
And like one of my clients said to me today, she was like, well, how do they like push like that much weight? I said, well, look, I said, there are genetic anomalies in the world in the sense of being that fucking physically strong. Like, yeah. I'm not saying that if you are of that mass that you can also do that. Do you know what I mean? In any way, shape, or form. But these guys have huge mass behind them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Your average guy is 6'4". Do you know what I mean?
And like, weighs and eats.
He's 150
kilos and eats on average like 10,000, 12,000 calories a day sometimes. Do you know what I mean? On average, on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And hence why, like, I wouldn't necessarily say.
So if you're 150 kilos and you're really strong, right? So your average gym goer, well, not your average gym goer, but if you want to quantify
your average lifter.
Let's put it this way. Only 4,000 people on this entire planet can deadlift 300 kilos. So these guys were deadlifting 360 kilos for as many reps as possible. The one guy got like 12 reps. Something ridiculous like that. But if, you know, again, going back to that coefficient, if you are 160 or 170 kilos and you're lifting 360, you know, relative to your body weight, it's still incredibly impressive. But you don't necessarily, you look at that and you think, well, I could never lift 360 kilos. But if you weigh 75 kilos, then your kind of extortionate lift would be twice your body weight plus a little bit of change, which would then put you at, you know, like 150 kilos or 160 kilos.
Or maybe 180 upwards if you were like,
do you know what I mean?
A power, like, if you were lifting for lower reps, like,
yeah.
And look, again, anomalies always, but like the reality is that you don't come across those people on a day-to-day basis on your average. But I think it's one of these things that's just really important to understand, like, where you sit in the ability of your strength. And like, you know, I don't think there's ever really a limit, but then I guess you start to play with black magic. Do you know what I mean? If they're
black magic,
like, and black magic by meaning just like help. Do you know what I mean? Assistance in the sense of drugs. You know. But I just think like I'm absolutely, completely and utterly not against any kind of steroid use in sites. I'm only against.
My personal opinion, I feel like we should allow performance enhancing drugs in all sports. We should just make it quantifiable and regulate it.
Well, like every drug trade, yeah, I think like regulating it would be great. I think the problem is the people. Look, there are some incredible educators in like PEDs, like on like around now. Coming back to the tools and the accessibility that we have of people, do you know what I mean? There are now some astoundingly well researched, educated professionals that can help you with this.
Yeah.
Problem is again, I come back to the people where they get most influence because for some reason maybe it's relatability. Perhaps I'm not sure.
What exactly?
Perhaps it is that. Influence is based off you feeling like you relate to somebody somehow, you know, that's really the definition of you being influenced. And I feel like if you're, I don't know, influenced by a natty who like is like a classic like too many fucking steroids, puts their clients on fucking steroids, like, you know, in a sense of like raging acne all over their back, like they look like they're about to have a heart attack, like blood pressure's through the roof, you know, and you aspire to that, then I'm sorry, you've already just paved the way to potentially not having the most professional, educated opinion on it. It's exactly the same as hormone replacement therapy, any kind of intervention. Like, if you don't have the right advice or the right, like, yeah, you're playing, as I said, with black magic. Like, it's probably not going to be magic. I mean, like, it's probably going to have a significant, but again,
I get what you're saying.
It's one of these things that I'm absolutely, but again, like, to see, you know, you will see some people online, and there are anomalies who are genetic anomalies.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're seeing people push, like there is a high chance that, like, at the top end ranges, that they could be not necessarily natural. But like, I just think that there is no end limit.
I don't think they're drug tested, or if they are, it's not very stringent. The world's strongest men.
Do you think that I've got no doubt
they're
that
definitely
at least,
on gear.
yeah, like there's no way.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, a couple of them, I think, like that Iron BB guy, he's just like, but his posture is so bad. I was, again, some of these guys, you know, they're not all. The world's strongest man is like an overall title. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they all win certain categories, so you can't be good at physically good at everything. You want to aim to be good at an all rounder.
Unless your name is Mariusz Pudzianowski.
But the same, you know, you'll see one of them better at pushing overhead than holding, you know what I mean? Like, and it just comes down to like what they dial in their training to get better at, so they can exceed, because they know that there's vulnerable points of other people, and so they're like, right, okay, well, I know I could win that category if I get really strong at that, because I know that they're not going to be focusing on it. And it's obviously, again, it's like CrossFit.
And I guess it comes down to exercise selection.
Absolutely.
Because then their training would then revolve around those certain disciplines.
If you want to get better at like a Zercher position of holding, like,
the
one
like
that
where
wheel,
they
what was it
went,
they were
the
doing
wheel where they pick up, I think it was like 350 kilos worth of
I think it was
bricks.
more than that. I feel like it was like 400
just bricks
or something.
something, and then you pick it, you Zercher it, and then you walk around 360 degrees and then some, and see how far you can go whilst carrying this load in an anterior position.
But all I can say is that the more and more you notice it, like if you're switched on to your exercise selection, also your exercise technique, like you'll do what, I mean, I'm sure there's coaches that listen to this, that you'll do exactly what myself and Mark do when we watch Strongman. Like, you know, it's like, it's clear that he's fucking trained, you know what I mean? He's put a lot of work in his posterior chain because he can actually hold himself up and he's got core strength, versus the person with like a severe anterior pelvic tilt that literally looks like the spine's about to break.
It was pretty easy to predetermine who was going to win certain events.
Yeah, definitely, especially like the ones where they're like holding a squat rack.
And again, when you look at the exercise selection for the different phenotypes or the different body types of people, the guys that were really, really tall, strong men, struggled with the deadlifts because they have a lot more distance to travel. Their levers are a lot longer. It requires a lot more energy. The guys that are relatively, I say shorter, but they're still like 6'2", 6 foot, are the guys that are then dominating the deadlift exercises, the hinging exercises, because of the compactness relative of their levers and, you know, muscle structures compared to the much taller athletes, where the taller athletes had advantages for the yoke carry and the carries because they had a lot more clearance when they lifted the things off the ground. So, and again, just comes down to literal exercise selection for different body types, and it's just a very tangible example of how, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a very tangible example. I also think it's like what's very, like, you know how many, I think also, again, I come back to, if we're thinking physique orientated now, like I said, like there's a very big difference between how you train, because it will show in your body composition, like where you hold more muscle, like. And so a lot of women, I don't want traps, and then we'll be rowing with like shrugged shoulders, and I'm like, look, okay, let me tell you how to row properly, and then you won't have
we're just
heavy
doing
traps.
tons of
You know, I feel
pressing.
like my neck's building. It's like, relax, breathe, like, you know what I mean? Where are your shoulder blades?
Yeah,
at,
but
you
it's
know?
not only that, but it's just like, well, let's look at your training program. How many pulling exercises have you got that, pulls your shoulder away from your ear? None. But you've got lots of lateral raises, overhead presses, squat jumps, squat thrusts, burpees, mountain climbers, pressing, planks, all these kind of things going through the front, the anterior part of the body.
I have to say, I see it a lot now with the girls that have like, that made their names off of having a nice arse. Like, that's a lot of the fitness industry. And it's almost, I don't know what it is, but it gives me the ick. But like, it really gives me the ick that people actually still engage with this stuff. But anyway, like, ick. Anyway, I would say that actually they show a really unreasonable amount of lower body training, like a stupid, like, oh, just do this another glute workout, another fucking glute workout. And yeah, you can train your glutes frequently because they're the biggest muscle group in the body, which means they can see the most volume without being fucked up.
But it's like, if you've got a really nice arse, what is the one thing that you constantly want to show people?
But they don't necessarily. In fact,
Not
I
saying
know,
that,
I hope
in their own head
that Ben is listening to this, because
yes.
Ben goes to our gym. We're mates with Ben.
BMLO.
Shout out, Ben. Ben actually made Mark a loaf of sourdough, which was very kind of him. Mark ate it all in
we
a whole
ate it on
day.
the first day.
The other day, we were having this conversation, and Ben said to me, he was like, why do girls wear like why do they have leggings like wedged up their arse crack? Like, is that like hygienic or like legit? It was a genuine question. I was like, look, it just accentuates the old arsehole, to be quite honest with you. Like, a lot of these girls, I have to say, there are some that have got wonderful lower halves. Genetically, they might be blessed with a bigger, but to actually have glute muscle, you should be probably looking at people that compete, do you know what I mean? Not the people that are fitness influencers, because they are genetically gifted in certain areas of their body and have made a huge amount of money based off of that, and also know exactly how to stand. You'll never see them training from the front, do you know what I mean?
You also look at their exercise selection that they're actually picking up, and
sometimes it's not bad.
But the vast majority of the movements that they do don't actually target the glutes.
Yeah, I also see them change things a lot because they've got to.
But then you've got 1 million followers because everyone's following you because of what your arse looks like. So obviously what you're going to show, your content is going to be heavily arse orientated.
No, Mark, they're not just arse, they're empowering women.
I'm sure they are, because...
Well, supposedly for some, and this is
no,
what I
I'm
say,
sure they are.
for
And
some
I'm
people,
not discrediting that.
this could be very empowering for them, but just know that, like, there's always a behind-the-scenes story. I know quite a few behind-the-scenes of fitness influencers from not personal, and friends' experience. It's not something that's not, like, we all know this. It's not something that's, I don't think, is real. Do you know what I mean? I think it's they know exactly what to do. Half these people have designed leggings in their shapewear brands, do you know what I mean, to have an arse that looks like half decent. But again, it's all these things.
But again, the question comes to if it makes a woman happy and more confident, then...
No, but what I'm saying is that there shouldn't necessarily be a direct correlation between... I think it's quite threatening in gyms these days. You've got cameras everywhere. We are very, very conscious of that in when we film, and we are only doing it we don't have a tripod, we don't have anything like that. It's like we get a corner and it's nobody's ever very, very, very rarely ever in the background of our videos. We will never film with other people in it, because I've been a little bit hesitant of it over the years because it is a little bit invasive, but again, it's our job, and so it's something that we have to do. And also we encourage our clients to do, because they send it to us, not for their to see their own progress and for us to obviously help with technique. But I think it is quite intimidating. These girls have... It might subconsciously have empowered quite a lot of younger females, but I'm not really sure in what. For example...
I personally haven't seen it.
A lot of people in the the girl female fitness world in the UK and America. A lot of the girls that run the reins have had, for example, a previous eating disorder, and now they're telling people how to lose weight, but also then telling people how to not have an eating disorder. It's just a little bit contradictory, because if your whole thing's fat loss and challenges and this like that, and the whole focus and outcome for your whole market is fat loss and losing fat and having abs and looking skinny, but your whole story is based off of an eating disorder, that's slightly concerning. Do we not think that maybe if you really wanted to help people with an eating disorder, either don't ever bring up you were like that before, because likely it is you're not really putting the best image or education on the, or you go in with the fact that your market is actually helping people not think about losing weight, fat loss challenges and getting abs in 28 days.
I don't know, because it's the main goal. So like, why
yes,
would you
absolutely,
want to do
but then I'm
everything else?
sorry, you can't sell your image of an eating disorder where you are anorexic.
But then can you not make the argument that I've overcome it and look at me now? Now I'm, instead of skinny, I'm strong.
But what everything you're doing is not necessarily building strength. It's effectively how many calories you burnt on your watch.
No, I'm not.
Or
I want
you know what I mean? Like, it might have been like
I want you to
what doesn't
expand
challenge
on
you doesn't change you kind of vibe. Do you know what I mean? But the reality is if you are, look, there's going to be people that in any way that get inspired by everything or somewhere or another. But like, I do think it's quite contradictory. Like the same as like a lot of girls like, their whole thing is like empowering women, and I'm like, but all you do is show women like your body. Like I was listening to a psychologist the other day,
and especially if you're naturally just, you know, have been in very
you
good shape or
know
decent
you're
shape.
in shape. Christ, when I'm in shape, I know I'm in shape. I'm not dumb.
And then it's like, look at me. I've also got a stomach roll when I bend my stomach over because I'm super relatable. And it's like, not really, because you've never actually been on the other side of the curtain, which is completely out of shape, ostracized, bullied, so on and so forth. You've always just been in really pretty good, decent shape, and now you're just trying to be relatable.
But they always have to have a story. Like all of them have had struggles, do you know what I mean?
But do you not think that is just but that is just storytelling. That is how
every single person that's made it in the fitness industry, that has made it into a new brand now, has done it in a fucking con artist way. And I really honestly, barring Joe Wicks.
Yeah, big up Joe Wicks.
Barring Joe Wicks, I would say James Smith, because obviously he's a very well-known one. He's like in the PT world.
Yeah.
He's always been straight to the point.
Yeah.
I'm saying like big names.
Women. Come on, we can't just say men. You can't just say that the only truthful people in the whole fitness industry would be men.
To be honest with you, I don't really follow or engage with many women. I know a lot of the fit because I had to, like in my days back in London, but. No, I would actually say a lot of women who are influenced now, they might be putting out the right message now, but they've all changed it.
Sure.
They've all changed it.
Yeah.
And they all sold and made a huge amount of money off of the message they did sell. And look, a lot of people can see past that new person. Yeah. Everyone's evolved. Yeah. I've evolved as a person. You've evolved as a person.
Sure.
But I would still always say that I've been pretty true to myself. I haven't.
No, you.
Like, I know I'm in fun. Like I know when I'm in shape. As I said, like I'm in the best shape of my life currently. Do you know what I mean? There will be images where I feel confident where I show that off, but I'm still not going to be necessarily training half naked in the sense of getting attention. Do you know what I mean? Like I do find it's quite attention seeking. I don't know why else you would do it. The reason I train with the layers it's fucking
because
cold.
The reality is, Georgia, and we've had this conversation numerous times.
So worrying.
Is when Georgia takes her clothes off, everyone is in your inbox. You know, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
But
I get
there
it.
are people that are in your inbox that have come out the woodwork, that are all over it, and that is you know, we can sit down, write, research, take us 6 hours, curate the best, you know, Instagram post that has the most amount of knowledge, you know, it's taken us the whole day to do it, and more people are just interested in just seeing you in a bikini. I don't
Yeah.
blame them because I want to see you in a bikini as well.
No,
But
but
like it's
but I
just
look,
so
I've
then
come
you
from a
get the
very, I've
sociable gratification that the vast majority of people in this industry have some form of body dysmorphia, and if they tell you that they don't, they're lying to you. So then you're also looking for social gratification through social media. You're looking for the likes. You're looking for people to, when you're feeling down, to say no, it's okay. And that's where people are forming their community, and that's where you're getting that dopamine hit that
I
we've
know.
become so accustomed to. So you like go from posting really intellectual stuff that gets 100 likes, and then a picture of you, training, looking fit, looking strong in a bikini, and that gets 15,000 likes. You're more obliged to continue down that
No,
path.
and that's what the way the industry's always run, and like I've got to say, like, I get it. Like, it's an image. Like, we are the image of the consistency that people like. What would be fucking what? Nobody is going to hire you as a coach unless, again, I come back to the relatability of it.
But I'm going to interrupt you one more time just to kind of clarify. But I kind of get it, because how many people have gone through a body transformation like you've gone through? Because, again, if you benchmark yourself against the other people in the industry, everyone started off when they were young and sprightly in the London days, where everyone was really in shape and shredded. And fast forward now to people have had children, married, so on and so forth. Most of those people, again, because they were pushing unsustainable lifestyles in the first place, have all regressed a very large amount, if
All
I'm
they
just being
found is the
very
fact that that
honest.
was obviously ridiculously
And
unsustainable.
and someone like yourself who's done the complete opposite and seems to continually strive to get better and are getting better, you 1% every single week, every single month, and have done so consistently for such a long period of time. It is pretty astonishing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I guess I would always say that the reason I'm much more reserved about it is because I know I have I deep down know this because people tell me, but like, I know I have the influence over people on especially weight loss and how I've managed to do it. Like, it's been the biggest question I've ever got asked. And because I've never really willingly shown, I'm never one of these people. I don't have like thousands of photos of me when I'm morbidly overweight. I didn't want a fucking photo. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to be in the camera. I was miserable. Like, and the same throughout the journey. Like, I didn't really take that many progress. I wasn't really, I saw it for myself, do you know what I mean? And I guess when I came to you to train, I did start being more quantifiable with like my body composition and such, because that's what I was trying to do. Because to be honest with you, majority of my weight, like, I did weight train. I wouldn't say it was structured strength training.
I would say it was
It
circuit
was
training.
over a decade ago. So like, it's some of these things where you're like,
But that's where the
it's
market was essentially. Like, I'm not saying that we, or me personally as a coach, have always endeavored to push these principles. There were moments in my life where, for whatever reason, again, prior to things like PubMed, Google Scholar, and the prevalence of social media, where people are now, sharing their evidence-based answers to different questions that that need to be quantified. The vast majority of us were doing circuit training, HIIT training,
well, I guess like
Tabata
it was
training.
because like at the end of the
Do you know what I
day,
mean? Like,
the functionalities of it is obviously it's a fat burning exercise, and for many years that's all like we've been focused on, and until the research came out about like the need for muscle mass in everybody, for some reason it's just never really been like that prominent until like the last
it still
5
needs
years.
to, yeah.
Like, in a sense, have come out, and that's actually all been directly linked to the mid generation. So the age 50s now, because that was where like HRT and like the professor, like, and that had a very positive impact, because those that were so struck with diet culture the whole way through their adulthood were now like oh fuck, like I could actually do something about this and I can have help. And I think that also spurred, like, especially for women,
Yeah,
the need
it's.
to weight train. But like I
If
still
you,
will.
could you imagine being in the early 2000s, late 90s, where the best thing that you could do to like for information was get your information from a magazine?
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Mark,
Oh
is that I
my
don't think it's
days.
any better. Like, I don't really think people should be taking that information from PubMed, Google Scholar either, unless you're
No, I'm
qualified
not
to
saying that. I'm
understand
not
it.
saying
It's
that.
only quantifiable if you understand
No,
it.
no, I appreciate that. And again, like a study doesn't always translate into practical application because, again, if you can take people, remove them from their environment completely, put them in a metabolic ward where you feed them and they've got no input on X, Y, and Z inputs, again, does that cross over into real life? No. It's the combination of experience, the fact that you have trained every single variation of a client known to man because you've put in over 10,000 hours in the trenches personal training people face to face, you know, gives you the quantifiable realm to make these suggestions and have form educational opinions on these things, is because it's a marrying of the science and the studying plus the experience, which is the potent combination that is lacking from.
I think,
Do you know what I mean?
I always say this, like,
Because again, there are people at the top of this industry, for example, that have never coached a person in their entire life. Think
yeah,
about
and
that for a second.
I say this, like, for us as coaches, there's this whole thing, like, currently with just like that need to scale and need to have people underneath you and need to have like, and like, yeah, I get it in the sense of like an online business, like getting like other coaches that are coached underneath you. Like, it's not something that we haven't necessarily been speaking about or have spoken about, but it's one of these things where I think like most of the people that are running these businesses, not your general, I don't want to class a lot of people under these, like, but yeah, half the people that are online coaches have never actually coached somebody face to face, like ever.
Yeah.
Like ever in their whole life.
Yeah.
They've coached themselves, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And and
Or
that's
they've
put
just
kind
sold
of, again, has
programs.
put like a little bit of a diminishing touch on like getting like, you know, ours is a premium online service for a reason, because we literally bring whatever we've brought to fucking face to face online. Like we literally like have to be integrated with your whole lifestyle. Like it's not like some fucking joke.
You
to
don't
us, do you know
sign
what I
up
mean?
to an app and then get onboarded onto a Facebook group for all
You
the
sign
other
up.
app
You
members
sign up
to
to
then
join
answer your
us to
questions.
coach you. Do you know what I mean? Like to have us to literally plan and fucking create clarity in your life,
Yeah.
so that you never have to ask a question to yourself or self-doubt yourself again. That's literally what we do. But I do think in the sense of the online coaching, it is like the app and the this and the that, and it's so generic because it's that's the way the industry is now telling us to do it. Like scale, pass it on to
Yeah.
this, pass it on to that.
Yeah.
And the reality is the people that are running these things have never coached anybody. You know, and even some people that I know have coached people all say that they like fucking hated it. And I'm
Yeah,
like, what?
which is quite funny, because now you're trying to become a business mentor and telling people how to coach, yet you openly say that you hated the job.
Again, it comes down to relatability. Like if somebody's got like, I don't know, like the same hair color as you or whatever, or like has a similar fucking body shape to you, or like has nice eyelashes, or I don't know, like it's just a lot more influential than the rest of it, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
what's relatable to somebody, and then that's.
When it comes to exercise selection, what exercises have you done that would you attribute to such a vast change in your strength and body composition? If you had to pick 3 exercises,
I just physically fucking could not do that.
5 exercises.
Well, no, because then that's just far too much variety for people.
No, I'm
it
saying
comes
what
down to-
exercises have you done that you personally, not
Yeah.
to anybody
I'm
else?
saying I couldn't possibly.
None.
I've done no exercise, yeah. I know, I just think it's so hard because it comes down to like I did all the you can take my words for it. I would say like I did an RDL and people are like, right, I'm doing an RDL, do you know what I mean? And so I also did an RDL with an extreme amount of weights, do you know what I mean? And with huge amounts of mechanical tension and with understanding of tempo and over a consistent period of time building it, and have done multiple variations of hamstring movements. So Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't say. Like, I'd say
What
obviously
about
like
trap bar deadlift? That's
it's
had
not really
quite
revolutionised like any of like my like rowing movements or
no,
my.
but in terms of your body composition, it's helped you build a substantial amount of muscle mass around your lower back area, your erectors, through your
Yeah, but then
spine.
also there's a combination of like that combined with like holding yourself up in numerous fucking unilateral exercises, back extensions.
I feel like
Like,
your bum has gone through different transitions.
okay, well, we don't need to talk about that, do we? Do you know what I mean?
It's changed shape so many times.
Well, it's not
But what
exactly a
would
good
you?
thing, is it?
No, I think. What like have glute-based movements have you done that would
It's
have
things that people won't want to fucking do. Do you know what I mean? That's the reality. I do a lot of unilateral work where people are like, oh, this is so hard. Do you know what I mean? And I do it with huge amounts of weights. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm in a position to be able to do that because I've worked to get there. I'm sorry, I just can't
You
be
are
that.
very strong though.
Yeah, but like what I've done so fucking consistently, and I've literally channeled it into being better the whole time. And I don't think that always is something that's really easy to say. Like, I can say to you, like, here's 5 exercises I've done that's been transformative for me looking the way that I do now. But the reality is that, are you doing them the same as how I did them? Are you doing them as consistently? Do you even have the same structure as me? Are we the same body composition? Like, is there, like, are you going to get the same returns as I did if you literally put 50% of the effort in?
True.
I don't know.
That's very no. You won't.
I don't want to put
obviously.
people like, it's like everything's possible. Everything's possible to build. Everything's possible to progress. Everything is literally possible. But you've just got to be willing to choose to be uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, there are times of training where it has been really uncomfortable for me, like really, really uncomfortable. But I love I love it.
I love it.
And not many people do like that pain. That's
No.
fine.
No,
But that's the difference between you and me.
that's the difference between you and me.
But that's the difference between everybody. Do you know what I mean? The difference between my outcome and your outcome, and because our outcomes would be different to how.
Going to that dark place. What did you say today that made me laugh? This hasn't got enough darkness in it.
We had to share headphones today, not fucking over the ear ones like AirPods, because I'd forgotten my headphones and I was like, oh my god, I cannot. Like, the gym it was just not
Do
the
you
day.
think that was a really gentleman's move on my behalf? Did that earn me any husband brownie points that I sacrificed?
Not really, because I'll bring up like the fact that for some reason we're equal in terms of my grandparents, but no. I think you've had enough this Christmas. I think you can share
I actually came
yeah,
out
you
the
fucking
side of the
can't
Christmas
so well with them.
really, really.
It's always
on
my
a-
side of the fucking family. You come out so bloody well, don't you? Do you know what I mean? I know that because you
I
just.
do. I put in the hard yards though. You know.
Oh, don't be desperate. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm
No,
gonna
I
tell them you're
don't.
desperate. No, I think, but look,
To be fair, if I had known that, I would have sacrificed my portion.
No, fuck's sake. Anyway, headphones were shared, and so we had to like listen to the same playlist, which we're not the same when it comes to our music, really. We do have similar like tastes, like enjoyments of certain music. Like,
I would say, I know you're gonna shout at me for this, but I would say that my taste in music is a little bit broader than yours.
oh, okay, what?
Broader, like I listen to dancehall, grime, rap, R&B, house music, techno, old school, rock.
Oh, that shows like you've got no consistency in your music taste, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, I would listen to like a mix between.
We listened to some rock today, which I was quite surprised
I listen to
by.
rock when I want to. That's why I told you to put on. I was like, I physically can't listen to this. What was it, Simon Dunmore, like Ibiza Classics or something? I was like, well, no, this is just too vibes. Like, I need to take myself to another dark place. Do you know what I mean?
To a dark room.
The dark room. But no, I would listen to not heavy metal. Fuck no, that's not me. But rock.
How heavy are you going?
Like the most heavy I'd go is like. Wouldn't even call it heavy. It's not heavy. I don't know what I'd even
What is heavy?
like Papa Roach. Do you know what I mean?
Papa Roach is pretty heavy.
Some of it is. Some of it's
It
not.
depends on your definition of heavy. Like there's thrash metal, death metal, which is heavy.
Okay, death metal is a problem if you listen to that. Sorry, I think you've got issues. Like, I'm sorry if you listen to death metal. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like you need. That's. Do you know anyone that listens to death?
Oh, cousin Robert is in a death metal band.
Okay, and how well do you get on with Robert?
He's the lead singer.
Okay, how well do you get on with Robert? He shared a bed with his mum for like how many years?
Oh my god, you're really just airing out the family secrets.
Yeah. But how long did he stay in the bed for?
14 years.
14 years he shared a bed with his mum.
And they used to shower together. Bath
What?
together.
They used to bath together. And you think that Rob's normal in front of a heavy
Hope
metal, a death metal band?
We've done an incredibly long podcast, and hopefully nobody's listened to
It's
this,
not
this far.
But all I'm saying is I don't think the death metal frontrunner of Rob, who is your cousin, is...
Yeah.
God, your cousins are really...
Yeah, I told you, like our family's fucking wrongins, bro.
No, your intermediate family is absolutely not. Like your
The
extended
people
family.
that were raised by my parents are
Absolutely
sound.
normal. Yeah, but the other ones,
And
yeah,
then
not
the
so
other
much.
ones are, it makes for good family gossip.
Well, I'm just like cut away from half my family anyway, so I'm not.
Your family is very small though.
Tiny.
Do you know what I mean? It's very tiny.
I don't know. It sounds a bit insignificant, isn't it? We should really have built the heirloom.
Yeah,
heirloom
people
a bit
need to
better.
get to fucking. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my god, absolutely not. I'm over that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because your family is really small. You got your aunts and uncles, you got cousins.
Yeah, but only cousins on one side,
Only cousins on one side.
and they're only 3.
Yeah, so it's not.
They're not 3 years old. There's 3 of them.
And then yeah, I mean.
And
your
then I've
family
like
is
got
very
my
small.
grandparents, my grandma,
Yeah.
auntie and uncle on one side not spoken to, auntie and uncle on
Mm.
the other side spoken to, but that's it. That's all I see
How
of my
many?
family.
How many family did we have from your side at the wedding? There couldn't have been.
Yeah,
that
but my
many.
parents classify like, because we don't have like a huge family. My family classify like my godparents and like as very close friends, like as family almost. Do you know what I mean? So we had quite a few of them. Like they've got some very close family friends, like who I would classify more significant than family. I mean, look, like you don't choose your family, do you know what I mean?
No.
Some parts of family can be incredibly challenging, and you're sometimes like, why are we ever? What are we related? That's strange. But look, maybe they think the same about us. I
don't think that my extended family have very positive things to say about.
Well, that's just your assumptions, isn't it?
Well, considering we didn't invite the vast majority of them to our wedding.
Well, because we didn't want your cousin to drink the bar dry on the fucking my father's fucking attack because he's a fucking alcoholic, for Christ's sake. There's the reason. Do you know what I mean? Where's the reason? Because he was rowdy and literally at lunchtime pours vodka into a thing of beer. So that was the reason. There's a good reason, isn't it? Because we'd spent so many thousands of pounds on alcohol,
Yeah.
and still we managed to get through all of that at the
We drank
wedding.
all of it, yeah.
And yeah, gross. Like he let's be honest, do you enjoy being around people
No.
like that?
No,
Exactly.
no.
So just like how you're the same with like picking, I don't think any of your parents would have even wanted them there.
No,
Exactly.
definitely not, no.
So that's the reason why you didn't invite half the family. Do you know what I mean? And you won't be invited back to them because why the fuck do you want to go to their wedding?
No, I wouldn't, to be honest.
Most people don't want to go to people's weddings. Oh, it's like Ricky Gervais, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ricky Gervais's new Armageddon on Netflix, so inappropriate. But if you enjoy Ricky Gervais, which
If
we
you are
do,
dirty,
like
yeah.
literally, if you've got like a fucked up mind, Ricky Gervais is for you. Like, and he said a whole thing about wedding, like when somebody's like invites you and he's just, I don't want to fucking come to your shit wedding. Like literally, it's like, why do I want to come watch you
I
for
like
12
weddings,
hours?
though.
Like literally, it was like, hi, because he does a whole thing on the invite because the invites are always so royal, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? So formal. Like you are dearly invited to the the marriage of whatever and whatever. He's like, why the fuck do I want to spend 12 hours with you looking at you? Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be at your fucking wedding. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's so true. Like,
I like weddings, so.
to be fair, we've been to some really good weddings.
Yeah.
Like, and weddings are, I don't personally think that about weddings, but
I
for
really
family's
like
sake, I do.
weddings.
Unless it's my sister. I'm not really that interested.
No. But if you are invested in the wedding, then it would be it's a fun time for a good mixture.
Oh my god, we had like the wedding was the thing that it's a once in a lifetime, obviously, because whatever.
I
But
would
like,
definitely say the wedding was the nicest. We've.
what that I've ever been to.
I really hang on to that.
Mark hangs on to the fact that I was so like madly in love with you. Yeah, well, you've had a few years after that, so, you know, enough to grind me down. I'm joking. But no, our weddings are once a lifetime because we're never going to ever have those people in the same destination ever again. Some of them are dead, some of them are about to die.
Yeah, R.I.P. Uncle Dave.
We had just the best time at the wedding. I don't think I ever relived that. And I think that's what a wedding should be like, to be quite honest with you.
You take that for granted, though, because when you end living in that moment, you think, like you said, like, you look around, you look at friends and family, and you think, you know, if you thought, oh, no, just a handful of a year's time, like, not half of them, but there are people that have sadly passed away, and there are people that are, you know, ill health and so on and so forth, and you really do take those moments for granted.
Yeah, I know, but you also then kind of like, you take it for granted, but you also like, but you lived in the moment, and they hadn't, and that's a great memory that we could actually have had. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know,
like,
sure. Which is obviously something which I think most should be grateful for.
No,
obviously.
Like again, like some of the like you said, those are the last few memories that some people have of certain individuals.
You know? Okay, well, let's end the podcast crying, shall we? Because it's very sad, personal side of our life. Anyway, that's a exercise. You can select your exercise, you just can't select your family. Literally. Anyway, what an informative podcast today. We're going to be back next week, and we will speak then.
Bye.
Goodbye.